Vinegar shortage? I know. You're going to go, what in the world? This is the most boring video ever. How is this impacting me? As I've been digging into the vinegar shortage of why there is a shortage, I started looking at aspirin, plastics, clothing in China, imports and exports of energy, refineries shut down. Does that sound like I'm still talking about vinegar? Because I am. As we dig into this topic of vinegar shortages around the world, you're going to find that all of these topics are actually quite relevant because apparently vinegar and its base units are used for a lot more than what you think. So let's jump into this video. But I did find that Fleischmann's was recently acquired by an Irish company called Kerry, the Taste and Nutrition Company. And they had some interesting things to say. The CEO concedes that Kerry, like many F&B players, has seen supply chains come under pressure, causing shortages and supply issues during the pandemic. While we have diverted some of our raw material supply to create hand sanitizer, we have benefited from our vertical integration and broad supply production network. If you go into Google and you type in vinegar shortage, you don't find anything. It's just nobody's talking about it. Nobody in the world. So now that you type into Google, you're going to get this video because I actually did the work to go look into what's going on here. So basically, Kerry and company, but nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about this. But what we're going to be seeing is that the vinegar production is being diverted to other uses. So even though the vinegar market is continuing to grow by about 2.7% per year, that's what they're saying, but in other places, we're going to see a much higher number. That is production, 2.7% increase. But we're going to be seeing that the increase in consumption is going to be more like 8% increases. So right there, you're seeing increases in consumption, but not a corresponding increase in production. Right here, it says over 100 million pounds are applied to U.S. farms and lawns every year. And this is vinegar. We have this use in the farming industrial community to basically directly apply to weeds and such, to burn them. Now it says the acetic acid market size is estimated to be $12.4 billion by 2027. Wait a minute. I thought we were talking about something that was like well under $1 billion in the U.S. That's the vinegar market. The industrial application of acetic acid is much larger. Now, this is mostly made from methyl alcohol, which is created from petroleum products. It is used in production of photographic film, which not many people use anymore, fabrics and synthetic fibers. It's also used in, of course, farming, but it's also used in making plastics. Yes, acetic acid is very important in the plastic making, and they make other chemicals out of acetic acid as well. Food and beverages segment of acetic acid market, which is vinegar, right? Expected to rise by 7.5%. Remember how the production was going up of vinegar of 2.7%? And yet the consumption is expected to continue to increase every year by 7.5%. Now that's just the projections. It sounds like from a lot of you guys and a lot of other people out there talking about how they're using vinegar more than what they have in the past, and they're purchasing more. It looks like consumption is actually above even the projections. Like I said, the acetic acid market total is $12.4 billion. So we're looking at vinegar, But what we're going to realize is that the industrial side of acetic acid is going to be wagging the vinegar's tail a little bit here. Because while you can use ethanol-based, which is like from corn alcohol, you can use in gasoline, but you can also, use for food products. That's where a lot of the vinegar comes from. The white vinegar is mostly corn alcohols and other alcohol, food alcohol based, right? That can be used for industrial purposes, but they're not supposed to use the methyl alcohol acetic acid for food production. So when we start talking about the vinegar shortages, we're going to be very quickly talking about Chinese companies because they produce a lot of acetic acid over there, and we're going to be talking about petroleum companies. Yeah, everything comes back to energy, right? So you're seeing kind of how vinegar is being impacted by petroleum, but that's not to say that the stuff on your store shelves are petroleum-based vinegars. Okay, I'm not saying that, but the food grade vinegar can be used for industrial purposes. So when there's a shortage over here of petroleum-based acetic acid, they pull from the food grade stuff, okay? I got a slide coming up here in just a little bit, but basically 75% of the industrial acetic acid is created by petroleum production. But 25% of the industrial application for acetic acid is actually ethanol-based. So you can see that there's a food vinegar that can move over to industrial. And when they have a shortage over there, like when they have an energy crisis, it starts moving that way and starts possibly creating issues on store shelves. And the pharmaceutical industry could also become critical if there's a shortage of acetic acid for production of important drugs, especially mass-produced drugs such as aspirin. Yes, aspirin requires vinegar. The construction industry is also struggling with the drastic price increases for many raw materials. These include important aggregates such as polymers and latex, paints, adhesives, and coatings, materials for whose production acetic acid is essential. Whew. So I thought we were just talking about vinegar. I thought I was just researching vinegar, but we're talking about latex, paints, adhesives, coatings, aspirin, pharmaceuticals. Yeah, we're talking about a lot of stuff here. Yeah, so as petroleum prices are up significantly out there, we are going to be seeing that vinegar is actually going to get impacted price-wise by that, and also supply-wise. We have a number of, so we don't have vinegar plants, food-grade vinegar plants shutting down, but we do have issues on the petroleum vinegar or the petroleum acetic acid front. And that's what's causing a lot of the problems in the acetic acid issues. Now, this is such a boring chemical that's used in everything, so only supply chain nerds are even paying any attention to this whatsoever, and nobody in the media is talking about this, but there is significant shortages in industrial acetic acid, and they're pulling it from the ethanol-based food acetic acids. If you're a farmer and you want to use acetic acid out there on your crops, you might want to grab some. And if you want to have vinegar out there for yourself, for your canning, food-wise, it might get a little tight shortly. I'm pulling all these little bits and pieces together to kind of show you that we basically have a bunch of industrial acetic acid plants in the West shutting down, China and India ramping up industrial acetic acid processes trying to meet the demand, but there's not enough. And so some of the vinegar, food-grade vinegar, is being pulled over to industrial side, which is creating a shortage of food grade vinegar out there. Now, food grade vinegar sitting on store shelves, it's dirt cheap. You know that. Now, they are making more per gallon by putting it on a store shelf and selling it to consumers directly. So, they make a lot more money selling it to consumers as food than they do get spraying it on crops and everything like that. But what we're seeing is these companies are cutting the supplies to the food market as tight as they can so they can sell the excess over to the industrial side. That's what we're seeing out there. That's why everything's so tight on your store shelves. Crazy, but true. We should have food grade vinegar on the shelves, but expect the supplies to be a little intermittent. And if the supply of industrial acetic acid gets tighter, expect those people that need that to start locking in some long-term contracts. You may start seeing certain brands of vinegar that don't make it themselves getting cut out of the loop and losing their access to buy the food grade vinegar. Hopefully that's all kind of making sense to you. We should have supplies coming still because Heinz and Fleischmann's, they're going to make more money selling the food grade vinegar to consumers directly than they will selling it to industrial. But they don't want any excess vinegar sitting around when they can sell it at a good price to somebody. And so they're keeping supplies really, really tight and short, and they may stop selling it for cheap to generic brands. So if you want cheap generic vinegar out there, you might want to stock up. And a bunch of people are already kind of doing that. That kind of explains some of the shortages out there.